You post so many LinkedIn posts that are obviously hugely valuable to the LinkedIn community.
My trick was at the beginning, I didn't write such long article like I do now. I write very
Mhm,
short article
mhm.
because it's very easy to write and it actually like good for the people who don't have a lot of time to read articles. So multiple points that I try to optimize in my articles is it's better to be simple than to be complex.
Quinn, welcome to the podcast. It's so awesome that you're here. How are you doing today? Where in the world are you calling in from?
Hi, John. Thank you for having me in the show. I'm in Illinois, um, Southern Illinois, so it's very close to St. Louis.
Oh, close to St. Louis. All right. Because
Mhm.
in my head, I guess I always think about Illinois. I always think about Chicago, but of
Right.
course, Illinois is a
Uh-huh.
big state.
Right. So the funny thing is that everybody, when I say Illinois, they associated me with Chicago, but I'm
Yeah.
4 hours away from Chicago and half an hour away from St. Louis, which is another state.
Yeah.
So,
In Missouri, right?
right.
Nice. All right. Do you go down to St. Louis? That's like the big city when you wanna, like, have a big night out or
Hmm, hmm,
yeah.
hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
It's I like St. Louis. It's it's not too small, but it's not too big, so you don't worry too much about traffic jam, and you still have so many things to do in the city.
Nice. Very cool, Quinn.
Mhm.
So, I know you through your LinkedIn posts. So you are a you post so many LinkedIn posts that are obviously hugely valuable to the LinkedIn community. I can see that basically every single one gets hundreds of reactions, and these are quite practical posts on
Mhm.
how to write Python code, in particular libraries, so that data scientists can make the most of that software. And so,
Mhm.
I've known about you for a while. I've seen these posts for a while, and I've had this idea in my mind. Oh man, I've got to see if Quinn would like to be on the Super Data Science show.
Uh-huh.
And then recently, at the time of recording, you
Mhm.
published a LinkedIn post where you posted a photo of my book, Deep Learning Illustrated,
Mhm.
and it got over 500 reactions, which I think is more than any post I've ever made. So I was like, you know what? This is it. This is the sign. I just got to ask Quinn. I was like, she
Mhm.
obviously knows who I am now.
Mhm.
So let's see if she wants to be on the show. And I was so happy that you said yes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have been a fan of your show, so it's a no-brainer to say yes to your request.
Nice. Yeah, I was happy to learn that you were a fan of the show already. Super cool. So, not only do you write all of these LinkedIn posts,
Mhm.
which have tens of thousands of views on average,
Mhm.
but you actually also write outside of LinkedIn in a longer form. So, LinkedIn, you're constrained to these small posts. And I think you do an excellent job with that small format. So, you
Mhm.
often will do a screenshot of a particular chunk of code that illustrates something clearly, and then you explain what you're doing in that chunk of code. So, it works really well in the short LinkedIn format, but you also write long form articles. So you've been writing for Towards Data Science for a while now. You've written over 100 articles for Towards Data Science.
Mhm.
And so that's led to a lot of eyeballs on your content. So you're now over 100,000 views per month on Towards Data Science alone for your long form blog posts.
Mhm.
So, my first question for you, Quinn, is what kinds of posts or types of posts do you find resonate most with your audience, or what are you most passionate about writing?
Mhm. Yeah. So there are two type of posts that I'm very passionate about sharing. So you said right. I write very short posts and very like long posts in form of articles. And
Mhm.
for the articles, I because it's longer, so I take that as an opportunity to use the knowledge that I know. So maybe some tools, some concept that I know, and put them together in an article and
Hmm.
try to explore what I'm curious about. So
Hmm.
my article is a mix of what I already know and what I want to learn more about.
Yes. Yeah, that's a
And
good I'm pretty similar. I'm often like,
yeah,
"Wow, there's something kinda interesting here,
mhm,
but I really wanna dig into this more," and if I commit to writing it
mhm.
I mean, the book is even a good example. I
I
wrote the
know.
book Deep Learning Illustrated
Uh-huh.
because I wanted to really understand these concepts well, so I
Mhm,
completely understand what you're saying.
Yes, I actually heard that from your podcast, and I'm like, wow, that's difficult though. Like I'm doing articles. I feel like it's somehow easier than a book or course, you know. So was I, wow, that's crazy. I so somebody else doing this, so I probably can do something even more, you know. So
Yeah,
uh,
no doubt. Actually, I can give you a little bit of a secret, which is
uh,
that you need to break the work into smaller chunks.
mhm,
So, for writing that book, I broke it into a series of videos. So, I created the content and, learned the content very well
mhm,
for these much smaller deadlines of creating
uh-huh,
videos. And
uh-huh,
then once it was about 20 hours of videos done, I was
mhm.
like, well, now all of this will tie together very nicely into a book. And so I imagine you could
Wow.
probably do something similar
Mhm,
with your blog
mhm,
posts. So if there's some overarching themes around your
mhm,
blog posts, a book could kind of be a combination of them.
Yeah, I actually that's a very great advice. I had just realized it recently. So you know, like I have all the LinkedIn posts, and I gathered them into a book, um,
Oh,
called yeah, it called Efficient.
there you go.
Yeah. So you know, like I put together in 2 days, right? It's because, and it's still kind of, I think it's still high quality because I spend a lot of time per day for each post. So now I put all of those together. So it's all the all the research, right? Put
Yeah.
into one resource.
I just found it here as we were speaking. It's called Efficient Python Tricks and Tools for Data Scientists. So
Mhm.
there you go. And it looks like there's a GitHub link to get that. Is it a free book or do you charge for it?
It's a free book because
Oh, wow.
I
There you
just
go.
I feel like because you see what are the free resources I already share, so I just want to find a way to put them together into one website where people can play with the code,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, that makes me happy.
Yeah. That sounds great. So
Mhm.
here I am telling you how you could make a book. And meanwhile, you've already done it.
I actually talk to a lot of people. You know, it's not easy to just come up with a decision to write a book. I think it takes a lot of motivation to get to write a book.
Yeah, it was the worst experience of my life for sure, but now I'm doing it
Uh,
again. I'm writing a second book, so there's something it's hugely rewarding when you're done,
uh,
but it is complicated because you have to the whole book, like so my first book was about 600 pages and it has to be consistent and correct all the way through. So you I think when you write a good book, you need to be able to say things when you're in chapter 4, you say, "Hey, there's more of this coming up in chapter 14, and this builds on what we've done in chapter 1." And
uh,
somebody who's reading the book, they're not necessarily going to read it from front to back. They'll be
right.
referencing back to things, and so
Mhm.
there has to be this consistency, this kind of tightness throughout it that I think that's the hardest part about it.
Yeah. I read a lot of technical books, and how I read them was, you know, I don't read like you don't. I feel like a book is like a resource that you take some from this books, there's some from another book, and how I often read book is I just get to the chapter that I'm very interested in, and I did the same with your book. Um, so and it was very interesting. I actually like, I get to one chapter, and from one chapter I read it consecutively because that's where I want to learn more about.
Right, that makes sense. Do you remember which chapter it was in mine? Which one was that you were so interested in?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Do I have that book with me? I think I put it somewhere. Um, but I think what I was really trying to, because I'm using deep learning in my current internship, and I use a framework, but I don't really understand like what each parameter do. So reading your book really helps me to understand it, because for me, and I think it's showing a lot in my articles. I like to learn from pictures, from graphs, and you put a
Mhm.
lot of them in your book, and it just make it so much easier for me to follow without take a lot of time to understand the math concept behind it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That was the
I'm a math
yeah.
person. I'm still prefer reading something that not too heavy in math.
Yeah, that was exactly the idea with that, is
Mhm,
that I think a lot of people can learn concepts more easily
mhm,
visually, and so I
mhm,
was teaching that content in classrooms,
mhm,
and I found that there were particular ways that I found of explaining things with a whiteboard, using different color markers on a whiteboard, and then I thought, "Okay, this is a good approach for teaching in a book as well." And then luckily, I was able to partner with Agley Bassins, who is an amazing artist, and she did an incredible job taking my
mhm.
terrible color sketches and turning them into beautiful illustrations. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my book, so I'm going to stop. So we were talking about your posts. You were talking about
Mhm,
how you like to make long form posts that blend together um,
mhm,
things that you're already familiar with and things that
mhm,
you would like to learn even better. You filled us in a bit on the
mhm,
kinds of content that you like to write about, but what are your tricks? How can listeners who might be writing their own posts increase their engagement?
mhm. Um, so I have been. So you are talking about articles or LinkedIn posts?
Well, either, I suppose. I mean, I guess I was more asking about kind of the towards data science articles, these
Mhm,
kinds of
mhm,
long form posts,
mhm.
but I guess either could be interesting.
Yeah, I could talk about articles first. So I have been play, because there's not one way that fit all. So I have been playing with different ways of writing. Um, so I guess a lot at the beginning, a lot of people, the question that I often get from people is how can you be consistent with your writing? And my trick was at the beginning, I didn't write such long article like I do now. I write very
Mhm,
short article
mhm.
because it's very easy to write, and it actually like good for the people who don't have a lot of time to read articles. So recently I write longer articles, but there's one thing that I keep consistent throughout my articles is the interpretability of the article. So what I
Interpretability.
mhm. So
Mhm.
for every of my article, I will give a person who don't have a technical writing, a technical understanding of the subject, and have them maybe they have some statistics knowledge, but not so much about data science. And I will have them reading my articles and see if they
Right.
understand it. And if there's some point that they don't understand, I will be like, okay, I need to add more pictures here,
Mm.
or I need to explain it better, or I should shorten this article. Uh, so multiple points that I try to optimize in my articles is it's better to be simple than to be complex, right? Like sometimes people write very long concept of they try to explain something in very lengthy words, but what would be better is to explain the same thing in simpler word but still deliver the same meaning. So yeah, and also I try to put a lot of codes and a lot of pictures between words so that
A lot
it
of code and a lot of
yeah,
pictures. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that
so
helps for sure.
that people like, oh, I can actually apply this for something, or this they look very interesting. It's like reading a comic book, that's what I want people to feel like when they read my articles, and I kind of feel the same vibe when reading your book. So
Yep, we're definitely on the same page about that. This episode is brought to you by Super Data Science, our online membership platform for learning data science at any level. Yes, the platform is called Super Data Science. It's the namesake of this very podcast. In the platform, you'll discover all of our 50-plus courses, which together provide over 300 hours of content, with new courses being added on average once per month. All of that and more you get as part of your membership at Super Data Science. So don't hold off, sign up today at www.superdatascience.com. Secure your membership and take your data science skills to the next level. As many pictures as I can put in. I agree. It makes things a lot more fun. And that was years ago. I used to write on Medium as well. Regularly, and that was definitely, I think Medium makes it very easy to insert photos in a way that is engaging. And another nice thing about Medium that you can probably corroborate, if people are looking for a place to do their writing, it's nice because it forces you to have your writing fit into a very specific template that always looks nice. So there's not a lot of options, but you quickly discover that for most kinds of writing, you don't need all those options.
Right. I think like Medium only allow you to do H1 case and H2 headline, and that's it. If you want to do like H3, H4, they're not gonna allow you. But that's
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
beauty of it, right? Because if like they allow you to do more subcategories, it becomes very messy for the
Yeah,
readers.
exactly. So you've got heading 1, heading
Mhm,
2, and that's
mhm,
it. Exactly. And there's only one way to do bullets, there's only one way to have numbered lists and so on.
mhm,
Exactly. So all right. So you've been writing for Towards Data Science for about a year and a half, coming on 2 years.
mhm,
And already it's made such a huge impact and it's led to new opportunities. So we're going to talk about a number of those, but one
mhm.
of those new opportunities that has recently come up at the time of recording is you now work for NVIDIA, one of the coolest tech companies in the world, as a tech writer for their developer blog. So that's super cool. I guess that happened as a result of them seeing how popular your Towards Data Science articles are and maybe even your LinkedIn posts.
Yeah, definitely. So they reach out to me because they know me. They know my skills from my articles and LinkedIn posts. It's a an expected effect from my writing, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it'll expand the impact of your writing.
Mhm,
And so are there particular I imagine when you write for Towards Data Science, which actually I should have mentioned right at the outset,
mhm,
that Towards Data Science as a Medium publication is one of the most prestigious and well-known on the internet, not only just on Medium. So I should have mentioned that from the start with Towards Data Science. But I imagine when you're writing for Towards Data Science, can you basically write about anything you want? And then when you write for NVIDIA, is that still the same, or are there kind of expectations that you write on particular topics?
Right. So towards data science, even though I say I'm a technical writer for towards data science, but they can have the right to accept my article or reject my article based on its
Ah,
quality. So that's
right,
why for every article that I write, I put a lot of effort in delivering high quality articles, and that is the reason why a lot of articles you see from towards data science are high quality articles. Um,
right.
right.
They
And
curate them.
mhm. So I for towards data science, they it's not like there's an editor that edit your article because that would be a lot of work for them. You know, they have like a lot
Right.
of articles submitted to them every day. But
Yeah.
for NVIDIA, I will cooperate with some technical expert to uh,
Right.
discuss about some tools or review the draft of the article. So it's two different
Cool.
approach, and
Yep.
I think both will grow me as a writer.
Totally. You get two different kinds of experiences. For Towards Data Science, you have to put extra time into making sure you have to be the editor, right?
Mhm,
You have to, in some points, you're thinking as the writer and you're being creative, but then at other points, you need to be very critical about what you're writing and kind of edit it. Whereas
mhm,
with NVIDIA, it sounds like they'll be able to they'll have some resources that will kind of work with you and be able
Mhm.
to edit a bit. So that'll be interesting. It'll that feedback process will no doubt lead to even better writing
Mhm. Mhm.
and just kind of be a great experience. So that's super cool.
Mhm. And about you asked about the topic. So for towards
Oh yeah.
data science, sometimes I write some topics that not related to data science, but it's interesting in a way that, for example, I could write about an article on creating some app using Python to do a particular thing, and they love it, so they're gonna post it. I enjoy working with them because I know that my articles, not every article get accepted, and my articles accepted for most of the
Mhm.
time. So I'm very happy with every time I my article is published with them. I'm very happy and proud of myself.
Very cool. Okay, so we have talked about uh, towards data science, obviously, and how that recently led to being invited to be a tech writer for the NVIDIA developer blog. And I think by the time that this episode is published, you should have probably a couple of those articles out on the NVIDIA blog, so listeners can check that out. The an interesting thing here that I want to mention. So most of the stuff that we've talked about so far in the episode would be interesting to other people who are interested in writing content themselves, maybe writing LinkedIn posts or writing blog posts or whatever. However, something that we should definitely mention is how doing that can be hugely helpful to your data science career in general. And probably even more broadly speaking, no matter what your career is, if you want to be perceived as a subject matter expert and be recognized by companies in whatever space you work in, writing about that stuff publicly is a hugely useful way to demonstrate your expertise and draw attention, and it can lead to jobs. So, for example, you, Quinn, you've had 4 data science internship jobs come out of your writing. You're currently working at a firm called Ocelot Consulting, and you mentioned to me before the show that you really love working there. So I'm keen to learn about what Ocelot Consulting does and what you do there in particular.
Yeah. So Ocelot Consulting, as the name say, is a consulting firm on different data science practice. So it's about we advise on cloud computing, on data analytics. So within Ocelot Consulting, we have a smaller startup called Phrase Science. And as a data science intern, I work in the team that work on the data science team in Phrase Science.
In
And
freight science, so that's like
mhm,
shipping, like
mhm.
trucks or and trains around the
Yeah.
US.
Mhm.
Which reminds me, St. Louis, Missouri is a big freight hub, isn't it? Lots of
Yeah, it
trains and
is.
trucks come through St.
Mhm.
Louis.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
see.
So you see, like nowadays, there's a lot of data science tools for other industry, right? But there's not a lot of data science tools out there for trucking industry. So what
Mhm.
Freight Science do is they help the trucking companies to make the decision that maximize their profit.
Right.
Um, right,
Yeah,
and
so using data and predictive
mhm.
analytics to help
and
minimize
mhm,
freight costs, optimize
mhm.
routes.
Right.
Sorry.
Uh-huh. Right. It actually right. So it's two parts. That's how I think about it. One is to forecast the number of orders, right? And the second part is
Ah.
based on the number of orders that you think will have on a particular land for a particular company. How do you gonna make the decision that optimize the profit of the company in the long term? So there's two part in it. So for me, my role as a data science intern, I work on the first part, which is to use machine learning and deep learning to forecast what will happen, how many orders there will be for a particular company or particular land on a particular day, and my forecast will be used by another group in the our company to do
Mhm,
some
mhm.
numerical optimization. And also another thing that I have just done recently was to when you launch a product, you want to know how good it is. So my responsibility was to see if there's a causal impact of our product on our do we
Ah,
impact them positively.
right. To see if there's
Mhm.
a causal impact of
Yeah.
working with Ocelot Consulting. What
Mhm.
did you find? Hopefully a positive impact.
There's a mix, right? I mean, for some region, there's like we can see like a statistically significant
Right,
um, increases in revenues. But for some
right,
region, we see the increase, but it's not significant. So we cannot do any
right,
kind of conclusion on that. But
right, right,
overall, it
right.
increased, so that's a good news.
Nice. Yes, that is good news.
Mhm.
And it could just be a sample size issue. It could be that even in those
Yes.
regions where
Mhm.
yeah, you
Mhm.
see an increase, but it's
Because
not statistically significant. Yeah, you just
mhm.
need more data.
Yeah, the sample size is pretty small, right? We,
Mhm.
we, we just try to do like, oh, we have the data. Let's see if we can see a causal impact here. But we also know that the data is not big, so um, maybe the result can be not accurate.
Right, right, right. Exactly.
Mhm,
So cool. So sounds like Ocelot Consulting is doing some cool work using
mhm,
data science practically to forecast orders and then
mhm,
to allow freight firms to maximize their profits based on those
mhm,
forecasts. So that's super cool. And I have a clear sense of what you do there. Are there
mhm,
any particular software languages or tools or approaches that you
mhm,
use
mhm.
most days in that job?
Yeah. So I write in Python. All
Python, yeah.
everything I write is in Python, and we use Azure ML, and
Oh, yeah.
also, and there's a very cool open source software that I use to build data science pipeline called Kedro. I don't know if you
Oh,
heard
how do
about
you
it.
spell that? No, I'm not
It's
sure I have.
it's Kedro.
Pedro. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what does that do?
Right. So writing code in data science is different from writing code for software, right? And the
Okay.
difference is that you have a function and you use a function to process the data. Maybe you kind of guess how the output would be, but you're not 100% sure, right? And it so that is only one function. If you apply multiple functions to one data, the code will look very messy, and you even more not sure about the output. So the ideal way to go about doing this is you put your code, your functions into a pipeline, and you know for sure what is the input of the data and what is the output of the data. So that's what Kedro allows you to do. So it put functions at nodes, right? So you have different nodes, and then these nodes are connected through a pipeline.
Oh, cool. So it's kind of it allows you to visualize your whole
Mhm.
data processing pipeline,
Yeah. Hmm.
so you can keep track of everything that's going on. That makes a
Hmm.
lot of sense.
Hmm.
Um, so that's super cool. I'm glad to learn about Kedro today. And you
Hmm.
mentioned also Azure ML, so
Hmm.
a cloud, Microsoft's cloud service,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
kind of their machine learning functionality built into that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, somewhat unsurprising that you're using Python. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
And
Uh, yeah.
I just want to briefly mention another tool that is
Mhm.
Great Expectations. I don't know. So it's like
Expectations?
Great Expectations.
Great
So
expectations. Oh, that's a great
yeah.
name.
So you have a certain expectation for your data, right? And what could happen is your data change. Maybe it change in different ways, right? Maybe the column that used to be there for the new data is not there anymore, or there's missing values that there were not missing values before, or there's a shift in the distribution of your data. And great expectations can help you to validate your data before you actually apply the functions on it, which is very
Right.
ideal because if you have some error, you don't know if that's because that's the new data or that's your code.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, I love these tools. It's great to learn about these. Um, so thank you so much for sharing those with us, Quinn.
Mhm.
And something that I think might be mind blowing for listeners about you is that despite, say, doing data science internships at places like Ocelot Consulting, really digging in to juicy, uh, beneficial work, really contributing to the company. On top of that,
Mhm.
and on top of being this prolific writer, both of long form blog posts at Towards Data Science and more recently NVIDIA, as well as on LinkedIn, on top of all of that, you're a full time student. So you are an
Right.
undergraduate student. You're finishing up soon. So next year, you'll finish your undergrad degree. You're
Mhm.
studying for a Bachelor of Science in Computational and Applied Mathematics, and you're doing okay at it. You've got a perfect 4.0 GPA. So, how do you prioritize all of these different strands of your life against each other? You've got so many different things going on, and you do all of them to perfection. You have a perfect GPA, and you haven't been writing these long form blog posts for very
Mhm.
long. It's been less than 2 years that you've been doing it for
Mhm.
Towards Data Science, and already
Mhm.
you're getting hundreds of thousands of views per month. How do you prioritize your time so that you can execute on all of these different strands of your life so effectively?
Yeah, thank you for the very great introduction on that. Um, so I think so when we talk about prioritize, it's not, it's more, the first thing that we want to do is to say no to the things that we don't care about and or not
Right,
important in our life. And for
right.
me, I say no to, except LinkedIn, I don't do so much social media
Mhm.
or right. And also one thing about, so one person can sit on a homework for 3 hours and that person might not be able to finish as much as another person who work on the homework for 1 hour but they very focused on it. So for me
Totally.
I yeah so for me I enjoy studying, so and I enjoy working and I enjoy writing. So every time I do something I pay full attention to the thing that I do. So in a way, I'm in the flow, right? I'm not getting much distracted, and that really helps because that push me over, you know, being tired. So that's very helps. And I also try not to be stressed because when you are stressed, oh, there's so many things to do. Oh, what can I do? You know I think about in the long term, it will be okay. I will able to finish all of these things in the long term. The things I'm stressed about, they will not matter anymore. And because of that, I feel calmer. And because I feel
Mm.
calmer, I don't bring that stress into my work, which could affect my quality of work in a negative way.
That is such great advice. I suspect, Quinn, that something that helps with both of those last two things you mentioned. So you mentioned three things: saying no, which is hugely important and so easy to not do. It's so easy to, I'm guilty of this. I'm getting a little better. I've historically been very guilty about saying yes to everything because I like to please people. But if you say yes to everyone, especially when it's individual requests,
Mhm.
that eats into time that you could be spending creating content that gets
For more
viewed, in your
people.
case, by
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands of people.
Mhm.
So saying no to some individual requests can lead to a
Mhm.
much bigger impact, much, much, much orders of magnitude bigger impact. And so, yeah, so that's hugely important. I agree. For those last two, so saying no was the first thing. The second thing you mentioned was focusing 100% on the task on hand. And the third thing was minimizing stress. And I suspect that something that helps with two and three, with the focus as well as reducing stress, is being really passionate about what you do. And you mentioned it there. You said, I like to study. I like to do my data science work. I like to write. And
Mhm.
so probably that's a big part of this, right? Is finding what you
Mhm.
enjoy doing.
Yeah, and also there's a quote called "You fake it until you make it," right? So I believe that, like for the subjects that I don't like about, I will tell everybody like I love this class, even though I didn't like it. I tell everybody, and they was like, "What?"
Uh,
Like, yeah, that's sure. So I just trick people and trick myself into liking
right.
the subject, and
Yeah.
because I like the subject, I don't mind spending hours on doing it. And
Right. I like
I
that.
actually like them now, just for the exception of some classes. But
Yeah.
I still like studying.
That's funny. I haven't thought of fake it till you make it in that kind of context. I usually think about, in fact, I've only ever before thought about this idea of fake it till you make it in the context of just tricking other people into thinking that you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
But I love this way that you're framing it of even to yourself by taking a class that maybe you're not so sure about and just saying, you know what, I'm gonna like this. I'm gonna make this work.
Mhm.
And then your own mind comes around and says, you know what, this isn't so bad. I
Right.
like that.
And I also fake that I'm a good student. So, if I don't understand something, I will. So, if, a professor asks a questions and they talk about something I don't understand, I would just ask some questions, and or I just guess what he's gonna say next. And so people thought I know, but it's just about I have more courage than other people to speak out, speak up.
That makes so much sense, Quinn. So tell me, this degree that you're pursuing, computational and applied math, I think I know what the answer is going to be. But do you think that that degree is going to be helpful to your data science career?
I would say yes and no. It's
Oh, I'm
both.
surprised that there's any no. It seems to me, it seems like one of the most in-demand aspects of a data science career. So I can't. I'm looking forward to hearing the yes, but I'm even more looking forward to hearing the no. Go ahead.
Right, right. So, um, I guess I so what I observed over time was, in my school, I did took some course on math for machine learning, and it was very helpful. I like, linear algebra and all those
Hmm.
fun stuff.
Hmm.
But what I realized is that if I don't apply them right away, I will forget them. And I think like
Right.
at school, the way they teach you is they teach you a bunch of theoretical things, one after another and after another. And
Right.
then
Right. Right.
if for my computer science class, I had them on different things, right? So some of them in R, which and some of them in C++, none of them in Python.
Right. Right.
But like, and they teach you like so many software. So but the company that you will work with, they not necessarily use those tools. And
Right.
once you graduate and you work in the company, you forget about those. So that's
Right.
why I say there's a yes and no in there. A lot of knowledge that I still remember, like the essential concepts of statistics, um,
Mhm.
or linear regression, or the time series. I still remember some of them, but some of them I forgot. So that's why it's leads to another thing that I often advise people on when they want to learn the math behind data science is to do both at the same time, right? It's not like you shouldn't learn the
Right.
theory, but you should ask a question: why do you want to learn this, and what you're
Right.
gonna apply it for, and learn a little bit at a time. So you learn, you apply, and then you learn, you apply one piece at a time.
Yeah, getting the theory and the application at the same time can be hugely beneficial. I someone named Vince Pataccio, who used to be a data scientist that worked for me, and now he works at Amazon Web Services.
Mhm.
He was on an episode earlier this year of the Super Data Science Show. He was on episode number 459, talking about how you can use data science to tackle climate change. So Vince, before he worked with me as a data scientist, he simultaneously pursued a master's in computer science with a data science specialization, which was teaching him the theory, while in his spare time around doing that degree, he was taking Udacity courses, which were hands-on and applied applications of data science. So kind of like you're saying, well, exactly like you're saying, having these underlying theoretical foundations and making those strong while simultaneously finding data science applications, I think that it's a great way to make the
Mhm.
most of both. And hopefully that also helps with remembering the theory as well. So you were talking about sometimes you learn theory, and I guess that's what your no was, right? That you were
Mhm.
saying yes and no. The big no is that you feel like you learn a bunch of things that you just forget anyway.
Right, right. That's how I feel about it. Um, I feel like there's a better way on doing it. I just feel like if 80% of what you learn is forgotten, then there might be a better way to go in about retain your knowledge for the hours that you put in.
Right. I
Um,
understand. Sometimes it does feel like that in school where you're like,
mhm,
yeah, I don't know how this is going to help me. And
mhm.
so I can understand that. I can understand that. But
Yeah.
something that you mentioned to me before we started recording was how you felt that your college degree has helped you enormously with learning how to learn. And
Mhm.
so even if you're forgetting things later, some of that stuff you're forgetting is still helping you come up with better ways of learning how to learn, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think I refine the way that I learn over time. And there's a book called Made to Stick. And I read
Made to
the book.
stick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's either Made to Stick or Made to Stick. But what this one teach you is if you learn a knowledge, right, and you, okay, so there's two ways of learning, passive and active
Active.
learning, right?
Yeah.
So passive means you watch a video and you're like, understand that that's easy. But active learning means you watch a video and you're like, okay, I kind of understand that, but can I actually, what is application? You think more about it. You're like, okay, what can I do with this? And can I
Mhm.
rewrite what he said in my paper, in my own words?
Exactly, in your own
So
words.
right. And I think when I read the book and it say like the student who study for a long, like they try to roll study again and again and again and again, like how student often like stay up late for the test the next day, so they just try to do like roll, like try to read again and again to make sure that they understand the concept, compared to the
Yep.
students who take less amount of time, but they actually make themselves feel uncomfortable. So like when you learn, like sometimes it feel easy, sometimes it feel uncomfortable, right? But what I learned from the book is feeling uncomfortable when you're learning is a very good sign that you
Right.
are absorbing new knowledge, because like because your neurons, I think it's something go about your neurons. So if when you try to learn new skills, like when you actually try to, like it's like lifting weight, right? You I know you lift a lot of weight, but if you just do like the weight that you feel comfortable with, right? You actually it doesn't improve much. But if you like get, okay, today I'm gonna do a little bit heavier, today I'm gonna be a bit
Yeah.
heavier, then
Yeah.
you feel it's hard, then it is working. um so
That
that's
is
how
a
I feel about
great
study.
that is a great analogy, and I
Mhm.
couldn't agree with you more. I also was one of these people in my undergrad. I really loved my courses and I was focused on getting really good grades. And like you, I discovered these kinds of active learning techniques. And so, just to summarize some of your ideas there, being able to put what you learned in your own words and thinking about and maybe even actually applying the knowledge that you've learned is critical to this active learning being effective. And yes, that analogy, I love that weightlifting analogy because when you are learning effectively, it isn't comfortable. If you're finding things very easy to understand, you're not pushing how much you could be learning in that time. Just like when you go to the gym, if you're not, increasing the weights and doing as much as you can, you're not
Yeah.
making the most of that time working out. So
Mhm.
great analogy. In this episode, Quinn, Before we wrap up, we should handle a
Mhm,
couple of audience questions. So sometimes before I have a guest come on the show, I make
mhm,
a post saying, "Hey, this guest is coming up soon. Do you have any questions for them?" And so I did one for you,
mhm,
Quinn, just earlier this week at the time of recording. And so we got
mhm,
a huge amount of engagement, which doesn't surprise me given how engaged your audience is. So over 10,000 views of this post and
mhm,
so many questions. We had 9 questions come up. So we're only going to take time to answer a couple of the questions that you thought were most interesting to you. So Nikolai Kurbitov, who frequently features on the Super Data Science podcast with his brilliant questions that he asks guests, he he asked 5 very technical questions, and one of them, number 2, was what would be your takeaways if you consider the
mhm,
traditional software development approach versus the data science development approach? And I think this is an interesting one because you actually addressed this earlier. So earlier on in the episode, you talked about Kedro, which allows you to visualize data science workflows. And when you did that, you mentioned how
mhm.
that kind of
Yeah,
data science
I
development,
think
wanting to see
that's
those
all I
data
got to
flows,
say about it.
is different from
Um,
kind of traditional
mhm,
software. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but we kind of covered it. And then, so Christoph Ogerbeck, who is also big, at least in my LinkedIn community, he's very frequently commenting on posts and engaging with people, not just me, but other people that uh, respond to posts that I make. And
mhm.
Christoph had 4 insightful, kind of, in some senses, philosophical questions. And some of them you've already answered. So one of his questions was, how important is it to show up every day? And we talked about that a lot in this episode, talking about
Mhm,
consistency. Um, and one of his other questions was, what's the biggest difference between today's Quinn versus Quinn writing her first Medium article? So I think this is a really interesting question to give you a chance to talk about your journey a little bit.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. So I guess what I did before writing, was I try to be consistent with learning data science by putting 1 hour per day on doing Kaggle competition. But
Mm,
so how I feel from it is I don't feel engaged in practicing data science, because what I did was I just doing some analysis, but I don't know where this will go. I don't have a goal for the project, so it's not exciting. And I thought
right.
that I didn't like data science. I thought data science is not my thing. Um, but then I try writing articles, and I try with couple of posts that I have a question that I want to answer. So I do a data analysis on it and write an article about it. And it was so fun. And I realized that, hey, data science actually fun if I have a goal in my mind on what I want to achieve with it. So since then, before I was not at all confident about my Python skill or data science skill. I feel like I'm a beginner. But once I start writing about what I learned and people start to recognize me as an expert in the field, I feel much more confident about my skills. And I actually increased my skill significantly by writing articles and writing posts every day on Python. So I would say me thinking about me before writing, I would think myself as a beginner, but now I think I feel much more confident about myself, and I also more confident to tackle more complicated concept instead of say I don't know anything about this, and sorry, but I cannot do this.
Nice. That's a great answer. So some things have stayed the same from Quinn when she wrote her first Medium article versus the ones that she's writing today. And one of those is the consistency. So your
Mhm,
consistency has stayed the same,
mhm,
but you feel much more confident now than in the beginning.
mhm.
And yeah, so that's a big difference. Very cool, Quinn. Thank you for taking the time to answer those audience questions. Well, a question that I always ask guests on the show, and you already kind of gave us a book recommendation just there, that book Made to Stick. But do you have any other book recommendations for us? It sounds like you read a lot, so you might have more than one.
Yeah, I read like a lot of book on paper form and on audiobook, but there's
Mhm.
a book that so there's a I would talk about the book that motivate me to start writing on LinkedIn because I write article
Ah,
before LinkedIn post,
ah,
and I didn't write LinkedIn post until I read that book. It called Show Your Work by
show your
Austin
work.
Austin Kleon. I think I don't know how to say his last name, but what it say about is whatever you do, how no matter how crappy your work is, just show it to people because like some people will benefit from it, you know. So I was like, and it will you will get better over time. Like it no matter how bad it is, just show your work. So like at the beginning, I was like, okay, this is something very stupid. Like I think like everybody know about this. It's something some Python snippet. I think everybody know about it, but I'm gonna post it anyway. I don't mind people think I'm stupid, but I was actually like care a lot about it. I try not to check my notification, and
Right.
people react very well to it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just keep doing this every day. So even on the day that I don't feel like it, I'm gonna do it very small code snippet, and I'm gonna post it. Um, and what surprises me is something that I thought very simple to people, like something I thought, there's no way people don't know about this. A lot of people don't know about that. So
Yeah.
I think we all have something worthy of sharing.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
there's a number of points there that I think are brilliant. So I couldn't agree more that sharing your work is key. It takes courage initially to think, oh, if I write a Medium post or I write a LinkedIn post, that anybody's going to care. But it helps you refine your own thinking about a concept. So even if literally nobody reads it, that kind of active listening that you were describing, putting something into your own words and publishing that,
Mhm.
something that you wanted to learn anyway, it means that you're more likely to think critically about this concept and where are the gaps in my understanding. So even if
Mhm.
nobody looked at it, it would still be a valuable exercise.
Right. Mhm.
But on top of that, as you point out, it's interesting how often even the stuff that you don't think is going to be interesting is. There are people out there who are more beginner than you. And in fact, in a field like data science or software development, there's way more people out there that know nothing about it or just a
Right.
tiny little bit who would love to have somebody explain even relatively simple concepts in an easy to understand way. So hugely valuable. And this ties into something that I've
Mhm.
ascribed to for years, and I think you do as well. You talked in the beginning of this episode about consistency.
Mhm.
So you talked about with Towards Data Science, you committed to writing short articles, but on a consistent schedule. And I think this is the key thing as well.
Mhm. Yeah, that leads to another book that it reminds me of another book that also really helps me along the way is it called Atomic Habit.
Yes,
Um,
that's exactly
and
right. That's where I get these ideas from because I've been long before James Clear wrote that book, Atomic Habits. I
Mhm.
met him on a bus in Switzerland. He was
Wow,
sitting next to me on the bus,
before he
and
wrote the
he
book.
said, "Oh, this was like 9 years ago, something like
Wow.
that."
Uh-huh.
It was no, not quite that long ago. It was 2014. I met him in a bus in
Mhm.
Switzerland. So, like, what is that? 6 years ago? 7 years ago?
Mhm.
It's hard to do math while I talk at the same time. That's I think it's 7 years ago. And he was at that time, he said, I'm committed to writing a blog post every single Monday and every single Thursday. And he was able to accumulate over 500,000 subscribers to his blog. So they were subscribers to his email newsletter. And that's what allowed him to have lots of content for his book, Atomic Habits. And
Mhm.
that it also meant that he had this large audience. And so through his posts, I was learning these kinds of ideas, like
Uh-huh.
writing consistently on a schedule.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I use that as a model for my own life with all of, my LinkedIn posting and any of the writing that I do. It's on a
Mhm.
schedule because
Mhm.
it's crazy. If you publish stuff on a schedule, you force yourself to do it. Posts that you think are short or quick, you didn't really think critically about it, you didn't do a good
Mhm.
job. Some of those posts do really well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, like, I think, just at the beginning, right? For like when you try to start something, don't focus too much on the quality. Try to focus on the quantity, which sounds kind of bad,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, for my articles, I'm like, if you want to start an article, just write, any kind of article. Just start writing very short article. If you want to have 1 hour, write a 1 hour blog post, and you end with your day. Um, so I think, just put your work out there and do put, like, have a schedule, right? For me, my schedule is write at least one article per week. I used to have more strict articles, like I need to write every Wednesday and publish on Thursday, but I realized that sometimes I want more flexible than that. Sometimes I prefer to write very long articles. So but have some kind of, schedule in your mind definitely will get you through the kind of the momentum to get started.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Wonderful, Quinn. Well, you've been an amazing guest on the show. We've learned so much about how to be a great technical writer, as
Mhm.
well as how that technical writing can be impactful for your career, whether it's
Mhm.
data science or something else. So, thank you for sharing your secrets with us. And hopefully, we'll have you back on for another episode soon.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you for having me on your show. It was very enjoyable to talk to you.
Quinn is so incredibly impressive. I'm delighted she was able to prioritize an appearance on Super Data Science amongst all of the pursuits she's tackling with aplomb in her life. In the episode, Quinn filled us in on how you can maximize the impact of your technical writing by running your content by a non-expert before publishing, by finding ways to explain concepts simply, and by including lots of visuals. She talked about how data science can be used to forecast freight orders and optimize transport firms' profitability, the software application Kedro for visualizing data flows, the Great Expectations tool for documenting data science and ensuring data quality, and how to be as epically productive as her by saying no, focusing 100% on the task at hand, enjoying what you do, framing your obligations in a positive mindset, and actively learning by applying your knowledge and putting it into your own words. As always, you can get all the show notes, including the transcript for this episode, the video recording, any materials mentioned on the show, the URLs for Quinn's LinkedIn and website, as well as my own social media profiles at superdatascience.com/521. That's superdatascience.com/521. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd greatly appreciate it if you left a review on your favorite podcasting app or on the Super Data Science YouTube channel. I also encourage you to let me know your thoughts on this episode directly by adding me on LinkedIn or Twitter and then tagging me in a post about it. Your feedback is invaluable for helping us shape future episodes of the show. Since this is a free podcast, if you're looking for a free way to help me out, I'd be very grateful if you left a rating of my book Deep Learning Illustrated on Amazon or Goodreads, gave some videos on my personal John Crone YouTube channel a thumbs up, or subscribe to my free, spam-free, and content-rich newsletter on johncrone.com. To support the Super Data Science company that kindly funds the management, editing, and production of this podcast, you could consider creating a free login to their learning platform at superdatascience.com, or consider buying a usually pretty darn cheap Udemy course published by Ligency, a Super Data Science affiliate, such as my own Mathematical Foundations of Machine Learning course, which I recently finished. So you can check out all the linear algebra and calculus content that I've published into that course. All right, thanks to Ivana, Jaime, Mario, and JP on the Super Data Science team for managing and producing another fun episode for us today. Keep on rocking it out there, folks, and I'm looking forward to enjoying another round of the Super Data Science podcast with you very soon.